question the other day from Ink Charmer. She asked why we feel the need to label each other. It's a pretty good question. I mean, I think we're all guilty of it in one way or another. Science labels things so we can communicate and learn and evolve as a people. Like, these berries are poisonous, these flowers are beautiful, that storm is dangerous. Show up for work at this time, and I will pay you this way. All of these things are useful tools for everyday life, but why do we label each other? I mean, it's one thing to label a pop singer as the king of rock, or your favorite actress as a star. But why do we label people like us as losers or punks? Why do we call the homeless guy on the corner lazy or worthless? Is it because we have some personal need for self-worth that we label ourselves as being better than someone else? Do we as a people have an uncontrollable need to be better than our neighbors? And if so, how overwhelmingly controlling is it for us to break someone else down that we become stereotypical or prejudiced? What kind of harm does it cause the receiver of our rant? What kind of danger does it really pose for us slamming someone else's feelings? I'll give you an example. A 38-year-old man from Texas threatens to get vengeance through Facebook to all of his high school bullies at their upcoming reunion. His name is Jason Carroll Moss, and he admitted to police that he made the threats because he was afraid that he was going to get picked on by these bullies at the reunion, even though it had been more than 20 years since he had seen any of them. 20 years. What would they have had to have done to him for him to hold on to something for 20 years? That's a life sentence. 20 years. I mean, you think maybe it could have been something like Carol was just holding on to a grudge from something meaningless, like the jocks kept pushing him into a locker, or some cool dude embarrassed him in front of a girl he liked. I really don't think so. I mean, when you get hurt over one girl and you find someone else, don't you generally get over the first one? Because if you don't, the second one's not going to take that for long. So I don't think that was the case. I mean, what would it take for you to hold on to a grudge for more than 20 years? I mean, that just baffles me. Do you look at some people and say, I bet that guy's a molesting pedophile, or that girl is such a tramp, or, you know, those people have way too much money to burn? You know, even if what we're labeling somebody with doesn't seem like too much of a big deal to us, what unforeseen events that may have happened to that person that day or that week, what we say might just be the final piece that pushes them over the edge. You know, what if they had just lost a loved one and they were trying to hide it, so we just couldn't tell by their body language that something horrible had just happened to them? Or what if we get somebody fired from a good job that they had, and they then were unable to take care of a sick child that they had? Would you be able to go to their terminally ill child and say, well, in a reassuring tone, you're not getting your medication this month because your worthless old man just got canned when I labeled him as a liability to the company and a thief even though it's not true. I hope you don't die. The point is, we don't know what happens in other people's lives. Even if we think we know them and spend time with them every day, we don't know what happens to them all the time of every day. Could the things that we say to people be the bell that rings in their heads endlessly until they crack? We don't think about that. We don't really think about anything when we're labeling someone, because if we were thinking of, well, even if we were just thinking of ourselves, wouldn't it pay to consider that one day we might get hunted down like pack rats for something we said years ago? You know, it's so very easy for us to go off on someone. If they say something hurtful to us, you know, we got to show them up. You know, we got to stand up for ourselves. But if we do go off on someone for saying something to us, do we then give that person a chance to explain themselves? Do we give them a chance to let us know what's going on in their lives? And likewise, if we go off on someone and they return it to us, and do we then explain to them what had happened to us? Do we take the time to say, this is what's happening to me, I just needed to vent? Or do we ever take into consideration that maybe someone else, although it isn't fair, maybe they just needed to vent? You know, following something like that up with an apology isn't weak or demeaning. In fact, it's respectful, mature, and for the most part is the civilized way to deal with it. Leave me your comments. I would love to know what your thoughts are on the subject. And remember, 73% of all statistics are made up on the spot.